The fog crept across the shattered landscape. 1918. France. A land haunted by smoke and sorrow. Trenches carved deep lines into the earth like scars on the face of a weary giant. Soldiers moved silently, their boots sinking into the mud, each step a struggle against despair. In the distance, the remnants of villages lay, broken doors hanging open, windows shattered, silence swallowing every echo. Courage flickered in the shadows, quiet, unyielding, yet fragile. Black soldiers pressed onward far from home, their uniforms' ragged faces streaked with grime and sweat. Every glance over the shoulder carried both fear and resolve. They were unseen by history, unrecorded by official reports. Yet their hearts beat with a rhythm that demanded to be remembered. Whispers of lost comrades floated among the trees. Names murmured, never written, each one a story suspended between life and oblivion. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and burning timber. A faint metallic tang lingered from distant skirmishes. The forest seemed alive, whispering warnings and memories alike. Some swore they saw shadows moving where no one should have been. Phantom figures, soldiers who vanished into the night. Ghosts of the fallen marched alongside the living, guiding, watching, judging. Letters from home were rare, each word cherished. Sometimes a lifeline, sometimes a torment. The soldier clutched a faded envelope, trembling hands tracing the ink. A mother's plea, a sister's prayer, the echo of a world untouched by war. It was enough to fuel determination, enough to ignite a courage that no artillery, no shell could extinguish. A distant bugle call shattered the morning mist. Commands shouted over the roar of cannon fire. Yet the men moved with uncanny precision, like shadows dancing in the twilight. Each movement rehearsed, each breath calculated. The line between fear and duty blurred. And in that blur, bravery was forged. Silent, unseen, yet undeniable. Legends seeped into every corner of the battlefield. Phantom regiments said to appear only under the moonlight. Whispers of soldiers returning from the dead. The young men listened to these stories, sometimes with skepticism, sometimes with hope. The line between folklore and fact dissolved in the chill of dawn. Every shadow could conceal friend or foe. Explosions shattered the morning quiet. Smoke curled toward the sky. Soldiers flinched, then steadied. The world demanded endurance. The mud-stained uniforms and weathered helmets bore witness to their journey. Faces told stories words could not. Eyes reflecting both the horror endured and the courage embraced. Somewhere a small wooden cabin still stood, doors swinging in the wind. Inside, the faint remnants of life lingered. A bowl, a chair, a cracked photograph. Each object a silent witness to survival. Outside, the soldiers paused, listening, feeling the pulse of the land. The shadows seemed heavier here, almost alive, almost aware. A sudden gust carried laughter, distant, spectral, unplaceable. Soldiers stiffened, fear coiling in their chests. Yet some whispered back, a defiance born from the marrow. Courage was measured not by absence of fear, but by the willingness to move forward despite it. Each step into the darkness, an act of rebellion. Rain began to fall, heavy, cold, relentless. Boots sank deeper, clothing clung to skin. The sky mirrored their exhaustion, gray, unyielding, yet within the storm. Determination burned brighter. Every droplet whispered of endurance. Every puddle reflected the history beneath their feet. The earth drank the memory of the brave. The forest grew denser, shadows lengthened, figures moved silently among trees. Black soldiers, once indistinct shapes, now fully present. Each carried stories, untold fears, unspoken hopes hidden. The air was thick with tension. Every branch snapped underfoot felt like a scream, yet they persisted, unwavering, unseen, resolute. From the ridge, the valley below told tales of abandoned villages. Fires long extinguished left scars on the land. Windows gaped like hollow eyes. The soldiers' footsteps echoed against history. Each echo carried a weight, a reminder that survival was never granted, only earned. Courage had a sound here, a low, steady heartbeat amidst chaos. A messenger arrived, battered, bloodied, yet smiling faintly. Orders were unclear, objectives hazy. Yet the men absorbed the news without hesitation. Action became instinct. Training, fear, and legend coalesced into motion. They moved as one shadow, one heartbeat, under the watchful eyes of the ghosts that lingered. Whispers of fate unknown traveled through the ranks. A comrade called once, never replied. Their absence marked by silence, yet presence felt in memory. The living bore the weight of the lost. Each step forward an homage, a promise that they would not be forgotten. Courage became a mantle heavier than armor, yet more enduring. Dawn broke. Sunlight weak filtered through heavy clouds. Soldiers paused. The silhouettes of trees casting long, distorted shadows. The world felt both immense and intimate. Time stretched, each moment suspended. The forest, the cabin, the distant hills, all witnesses to their perseverance. They breathed in unity, exhaled defiance. Night returned faster than expected. Darkness draped over the land. Shadows merged obscured. Every footstep a negotiation with the unseen. The men pressed forward, their forms barely visible. Yet their presence was undeniable. Courage whispered louder than cannon fire, louder than the forest itself. Old songs hummed quietly. Spirituals carried through the ranks, a tether to home, a shield against despair. Ghostly echoes of ancestors entwined with the living, each note a reminder. They marched not alone. History, legend, and faith moved alongside them, every shadow now a companion, every step a story. A sudden flare of light revealed a figure ahead, half hidden, observing. Soldiers tensed. Then recognition. It was a comrade thought lost. The reunion was silent. Eyes spoke what words could not. Shadows hid smiles, relief, grief. The battlefield held them, yet they claimed small victories in its folds. The wind shifted, carrying voices distant and near, some real, some imagined, yet all influenced courage. Every heartbeat synchronized with another. Every breath a shared secret. Shadows no longer only threatened. They reminded them of their resilience, of their purpose. By the edge of the clearing, a soldier stopped, gazed at the horizon. The ruins of humanity stretched before him. Yet within a light persisted, not bright, not triumphant, but steady, defiant, unbroken. Courage lived here, in shadows, in mud, and whispers. It endured. And so they moved on, unseen, unheralded, yet unforgettable. Through darkness, rain, fire, and silence, their stories folded into the land, into legend, into history. Each shadow carried their name, each gust of wind their heartbeat, and in every shadow, courage waited. The dawn was thin and gray, barely illuminating the shattered fields of northern France. 1918. Smoke hung in long tendrils over the trenches, mixing with mist rising from mud-laden roads. Soldiers moved like shadows among the ruins, their boots sinking into the soft earth with each cautious step. The scent of damp timber and churned soil filled the air, a haunting reminder of what had been lost. Courage flickered quietly in the eyes of men unseen by history. Black soldiers pressed onward through villages abandoned in haste. Roofs sagged, walls blackened by fire. Windows gaped like empty sockets, silent witnesses to sudden departures. Inside, remnants of domestic life lingered: a cracked chair, a bowl tipped over a child's toy, half buried in dirt. Each fragment told a story of absence and endurance, and outside the forest pressed close shadows, merging with the fog, hiding both danger and hope. The earth itself seemed alive, scarred by the boots of countless feet and the trenches dug by desperate hands. Craters held stagnant water, reflecting the pale morning sky. Soldiers paused at these pools, scanning their reflections for signs of fatigue, determination, and the faint specter of fear. Ghostly legends circulated, phantom regiments appearing silently under the moon. Stories passed from village to village, intertwining with reality in a way that made the unseen feel almost tangible. Cabins splintered and leaning dotted the countryside like forgotten memories. Doors hung loose hinges, creaking in the wind. The smell of smoke and decay hung heavy. Soldiers approached carefully. Inside, the air was thick with the ghosts of everyday life. A cracked photograph, a faded letter, a scorched toy, traces of existence preserved in shadowed corners. Folklore whispered that spirits lingered in such places, watching, guiding, waiting. The forests themselves seemed to breathe. Twisted branches interlocked above, forming natural corridors. Sunlight fell in uneven shafts, painting the earth with dappled light and shadow. Every step through the underbrush was calculated. A misstep could reveal a hidden danger or invoke the presence of a phantom watcher. Soldiers moved as though the land itself were part of the war, each branch, each leaf a participant in the narrative of survival. Abandoned fields revealed the remnants of daily life. Rusted tools, bent wheel rims, torn pieces of fabric. Soldiers imagined the hands that once wielded them. Some swore they saw faint figures moving among the debris. Folklore told of children vanishing during the bombardments, of spirits protecting those still alive. The legends and reality intertwined, each footstep carrying the weight of both, every shadow a reminder of what might be lurking. The rivers, swollen with recent rain, reflected a fragmented sky. Driftwood and debris floated aimlessly, moving with the current like memories of battles past. Soldiers paused to drink their reflections, fractured by ripples. Some claimed the river carried messages from the fallen, warnings, encouragements, echoes of courage and despair. Fact and folklore merged as naturally as the water itself, each soldier internalizing both in silent resolve. The wind carried distant, indistinct voices, laughter cries, or perhaps merely echoes of the past. Soldiers stiffened at every sound. Some whispered prayers, others muttered the names of comrades lost to fate unknown. Every noise, every movement in the landscape felt deliberate, charged with meaning. Courage became more than a physical act. It was an engagement with memory, myth, and history. Smoke from distant fires drifted over the fields. The scent of charred wood clung to the air. Soldiers scanned the horizon. Abandoned villages held the weight of countless stories. Windows reflected pale light, hiding the ghosts of previous inhabitants. Each shadow seemed alive, moving with intent. Soldiers learned to read them, interpreting movement as guidance or warning. The line between reality and legend blurred. Campfires smoldered in hidden clearings. Men huddled close, sharing warmth and whispered tales. Phantom regiments, ghostly apparitions, and vanished comrades populated these stories. Laughter and fear mingled in equal measure. The forest seemed to listen, sometimes approving, sometimes indifferent. Courage persisted here in these microcosms. Not loud or grandiose, but persistent, quiet, and necessary. The sky darkened into the afternoon clouds rolling low. Shadows deepened, stretching unnaturally across open fields. Soldiers adjusted their pace, eyes scanning constantly. The terrain itself became a test of vigilance. Every fallen branch or rustle of leaves a potential threat. Yet they pressed forward, each step deliberate, fueled by discipline, faith, and the unyielding need to survive. Rivers and streams offered brief respite, water flowing over stones reflecting shattered clouds. Soldiers knelt, drank, and paused, listening to the hum of the world. Ghost stories intertwined with their experiences, giving meaning to the random, the chaotic. Courage was measured not by absence of fear, but by endurance through uncertainty. The land itself seemed to reinforce this lesson. The wind shifted, carrying with it the faint sense of smoke, pine, and earth. Every sound was amplified in the mist. Soldiers moved in synchrony, steps measured, eyes alert. Legends of phantom guides or spectral warnings strengthened their resolve. Fact and folklore interwove seamlessly, each man navigating both the seen and unseen with equal care. Cabins and barns stood as fractured monuments, leaning walls, blackened beams, empty interiors. Soldiers paused, running hands over splintered wood. Traces of life lingered, dishes, linens, personal items. Folklore insisted that these remnants were watched over. Spirits of the past lingered, neither benevolent nor cruel, but attentive. Their presence was felt in the tension, in the silence, in the careful footsteps. Abandoned streets revealed past lives, doors hanging ajar, cobblestones, uneven shadows stretching long. Soldiers passed silently, imagining the families that once thrived here. Legends whispered of children who vanished during nights of bombardment. Some said the spirits guided the living, others warned them. The land was alive with memory. Courage was walking through it unafraid. Rain began to fall, lightly, cold and persistent. Clothing clung to skin, boots sank into the mud. Soldiers pressed forward, each droplet a reminder of endurance. The storm mirrored the uncertainty of war. Every step was an act of courage, every breath an assertion of life. The land soaked up their resolve, carrying it into history. By riverbanks, soldiers observed reflections fragmented by ripples. Some swore the water carried the spirits of comrades, silent messages that bolstered courage. The merging of fact and legend became a guide. The river, the mud, the forest, all whispered their support to those willing to listen. Shadows themselves seemed to bend in recognition. Evening approached. Shadows lengthened across fields and forests. Soldiers paused to rest briefly, listening to distant echoes. Some sang softly spirituals carried from home, voices mingling with the wind, blending with folklore. Courage was strengthened in these moments, both collective and intimate. Legends and reality fused, shaping resilience. Night fell gradually. Darkness enveloped all. Trees became towers of shadow cabins, mere shapes in the gloom. Soldiers adjusted, moving carefully. The night held secrets, dangers, and stories. Courage became a necessity. Every rustle, every whisper, a test of resolve. Legends of phantom regiments and ghostly watchers were not dismissed. They guided and warned simultaneously. And as the first stars appeared, soldiers stopped to survey the land. Fields scarred by conflict, forests, whispering tales, rivers reflecting distant lights. The entire landscape seemed conscious, responsive, attentive. Courage persisted here. In every shadow, every droplet, every movement of the wind, fact and folklore entwined, history and legend inseparable, shaping men into something more than mere survivors. The battlefield was quiet, but the silence carried weight. Reports from military records spoke of units that vanished without warning. Letters marked fate unknown arrived sporadically, sometimes smeared with mud, sometimes folded neatly but never delivered. Families waited in vain, clinging to hope. Soldiers bore the knowledge in silence. Every day was a gamble between life and disappearance. Shadows seemed to hold stories that were never written. Black soldiers marched through the fog, rifles slung across shoulders, their boots sinking into wet earth. They whispered the names of comrades who had gone missing, names never recorded in official archives. Some swore they felt those men walking alongside them unseen, guiding them through mud and ruin. A chill ran through the ranks as old legends intertwined with these hard facts. Courage was not born from ignorance. It was forged in awareness. The wind carried the faint echoes of distant gunfire, each crack and boom a reminder of mortality. Yet some stories could not be explained by battle alone. Villagers spoke of phantom regiments appearing only at night, moving silently through the fog, vanishing before dawn. Soldiers claimed they saw fleeting shadows at the edge of their vision, figures that were not fully there, not fully gone, and yet somehow present. Trenches held secrets, letters, discarded journals, scraps of cloth. Each item told a story, each artifact a witness to what had transpired. In one dugout, a soldier discovered a torn photograph, partially burned, of a young man who had disappeared during a reconnaissance mission. The remaining image seemed alive, eyes following him. Legends whispered that those who vanished became watchers, guardians of the battlefield, and sometimes guides for the living. Evening fell slowly, stretching shadows across the fields. Soldiers huddled around small fires, sharing tales of vanished comrades. Some stories were chillingly specific, a lieutenant seen walking into fog, never emerging. A group of men counted one by one only to realize someone had silently vanished. Others spoke of spectral drums beating in rhythm with unseen marches. The legends were vivid, visceral, and impossible to ignore. Documents recovered from abandoned command posts hinted at strange phenomena. Logs mentioned sudden disappearances, unexplained noises, and movements that defied reason. Soldiers interpreted these entries carefully, some as warnings, some as confirmations of the ghost stories. The lines blurred between recorded fact and whispered folklore, between fear and respect. Courage demanded acknowledgement of both. The villages told their own tales. Children hiding in ruined cabins claimed to see soldiers walking through walls. Locals swore they heard footsteps in empty streets, and sometimes soft singing. Spirituals carried from the beyond, guiding those still among the living. Soldiers, weary and mud-streaked, listened and believed. Even disbelief required courage, facing the possibility that legends were more real than logic allowed. Maps recovered from officers' kits showed strange notations, lines drawn that led nowhere, units assigned to patrol zones that did not exist. Letters marked "Fate Unknown" were often left in these areas. Soldiers navigated these ghostly grids following invisible threads. The forest itself seemed to respond. Shadows shifted as if acknowledging their passage. Courage became both instinct and defiance. Some soldiers claimed to hear orders given from unseen voices, whispered commands in languages half-remembered, half-dreamed. The living obeyed, moving with precise coordination guided by the unseen. Fact layered upon folklore, tangible strategy entwined with spectral suggestion. Each step, a balance between reality and imagination, between life and absence. Shadows themselves seemed to hold counsel. In one abandoned barn, soldiers discovered items untouched for weeks: a broken musket, a hat, a journal page. The journal chronicled patrols, skirmishes, and sudden vanishings. Some pages were missing, ripped deliberately perhaps by someone who had never returned. Soldiers read the fragments and felt the weight of history. Folklore seeped into the inked words. Courage became a dialogue with the past, with those who could no longer speak. Night fell heavily. The fog thickened. Shadows of trees merged with human forms. Soldiers moved in silence, aware that even the faintest sound could announce presence. Legends spoke of phantom drums echoing across the valleys, summoning the lost. Some swore they felt hands brush theirs, unseen yet guiding. Fact and folklore were inseparable. The men relied on both to survive, to endure, to press onward. A sudden gust carried the faintest music, a flute, a drum, a chant. Soldiers froze, listening. The melody seemed impossibly old. Stories told of spirits that sang to sustain morale, to warn the living of danger. The melody wound through the forest like smoke, twisting and turning, shaping perception. Courage became a matter of following the notes without faltering. Abandoned campsites offered evidence of struggle: scattered gear, half-eaten rations, footprints disappearing into the mist. Soldiers imagined the stories behind each item. Men who had vanished under the cover of darkness, leaving nothing but whispers. Some believed the missing were still present, watching, guiding, judging. The line between absence and presence blurred. Bravery was acknowledging both simultaneously. In the ruins of a small chapel, a candle flickered unexpectedly. Soldiers approached. No flame should have remained. The air was thick with incense, or perhaps the memory of incense. Legend held that the spirits of those lost in battle could reach across time, guiding the living, comforting warning. Soldiers bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Courage included humility and recognition of forces unseen. The wind shifted again, carrying voices from the past, shouted orders, faint laughter, cries of pain. Soldiers pressed onward. Each sound was a test of focus, a challenge to maintain composure in a world where reality and legend entwined. Courage was not merely endurance, it was perception, the ability to act even when the rules of the world seemed suspended. Some claimed to see shapes moving in the fog, only glimpses, blurred forms that appeared human, then vanished. Soldiers recounted these sightings in whispers. Some laughed nervously, some prayed silently. Ghost stories became lifelines. Stories of fate unknown, of watchers in the shadows, of guidance from the past. Each tale reinforced vigilance, each tale reinforced courage. Reports from command noted units unaccounted for. Entries marked missing fate unknown. The documentation lacked explanation. Soldiers knew the truth was more complex. Fact and folklore intertwined. The battlefield itself became a character, observing, responding, shaping every choice. Courage required acknowledgement, that unseen eyes were always present, and that survival depended on their respect. Old legends spoke of phantom guides appearing in the darkest hours, leading men through ambushes, warning of hidden dangers. Soldiers observed strange patterns in the forest, fleeting glimpses of light movement in shadows. Some swore these guides were the spirits of their predecessors, invisible yet reliable. Fact and folklore merged into strategy. Courage became the capacity to trust both. Even as exhaustion gnawed at them, soldiers felt the weight of history. Each step through mud and ruin a continuation of countless journeys. Names, lost faces, vanished deeds unrecorded. Yet the presence of those who came before offered strength. Songs hummed softly, stories whispered along the wind. Folklore provided rhythm. Fact provided structure. Courage emerged from the synthesis. Dawn approached slowly. Fog thinned slightly. The silhouettes of trees and ruined cabins revealed themselves more clearly. Soldiers paused, reflecting on what they had witnessed. Some items, some phenomena, some fleeting shadows defied explanation. And yet these moments fortified resolve. The boundary between reality and legend remained permeable. Courage required embracing the uncertainty. By mid-morning, the soldiers pressed deeper into the forest. The earth beneath them scarred the air thick with memory. Each step carried history. Each breath carried caution. Phantom tales and documented facts coexisted, guiding their motions, shaping perception, reinforcing bravery. Shadows were no longer mere absence of light. They were participants, active witnesses to courage in the making. The forest grew denser, fog curling through gnarled branches. Soldiers advanced cautiously, every footstep measured. Suddenly, a distant scream cut through the stillness. No origin could be traced. Yet everyone paused, hearts pounding. The rumor spread immediately. A patrol had vanished in the night. Fate unknown. The air thickened with tension. Shadows seemed to watch. An abandoned village appeared on the horizon. Charred huts leaning precariously. Smoke still rose from forgotten hearths. Soldiers approached, scanning for signs of life. Footprints led to nowhere. Doors swung open without wind. Whispers told of families who vanished during a single night. Ghost stories merged with facts. Soldiers shivered. Courage willed them onward. A soldier stumbled upon a torn letter, partially burned, words barely legible. "We are lost. Never return." The handwriting matched no known registry. Folklore suggested letters like these carried the voices of the vanished. Those who found them reported feeling hands brush theirs, unseen guiding or warning. Fear and resolve intertwined. Courage became instinct. Came in the thickest part of the forest. A platoon moved silently. The leader counted heads. One soldier was missing. Not a trace remained. Another patrol had experienced the same. Repeatedly. Fate unknown. Whispers grew among the men. Phantom regiments. Guiding hands of those already gone. The legend became a tool. The fear a sharpened edge of awareness. A small creek reflected the gray sky. Ripples distorted images. Soldiers glimpsed figures in the water, fleeting, disappearing. Legends spoke of drowned soldiers rising to aid the living. Some soldiers swore the creek whispered their own names. Every pause, every reflection became a question. Courage required believing without seeing, action without certainty. The wind carried a song, faint, ethereal. Spirituals from another time, another place. Soldiers stopped listening. Some imagined the voices of ancestors warning, guiding, comforting. Shadows shifted as if responding. Each note strengthened determination. Fact and folklore became inseparable. Courage required embracing the unseen. On a hillside, a burned-out cabin revealed signs of hurried departure. Clothes, scattered utensils overturned. Soldiers speculated on the occupants, who vanished overnight. Some spoke of seeing silhouettes moving among the ruins, half human, half shadow. Stories circulated. Phantom watchers of the battlefield. Fate unknown haunted each speculation. Courage was continuing, despite dread. A messenger appeared. Face, pale uniform soaked. Words stumbled out. The Northern Patrol. Gone. Missing. Fate unknown. Soldiers absorbed the news silently. Horror mixed with disbelief. Legends of phantom regiments whispered in their ears. Some felt the weight of eyes upon them. unseen yet real. Courage demanded composure. Every heartbeat a defiance. Rain began again, cold steady. Muddy roads slowed movement. Soldiers pressed forward, boots sucking in wet earth. In the distance, smoke spiraled. A village under assault or abandoned. Legends told of spirits appearing to shield or guide. Some swore they saw faint flashes of movement. Courage became instinct, hope intertwined with fear. A soldier noticed a handprint, smeared in mud, no companion nearby. Yet the print was fresh. Whispers of a vanished comrade reached his ears. Some believed the missing walked unseen, leading them forward. Courage required acting with the knowledge that unseen allies and threats coexisted. Each step was deliberate, each glance in negotiation with shadows. The sun dipped low, shadows lengthened unnaturally. Soldiers paused on a ridge, surveying the land below. Ghost stories spoke of villages disappearing overnight. Today they witnessed remnants, footprints that led into mist and vanished. Every trace heightened tension. Courage became a blend of fear and discipline, action measured in silence. At the river crossing, a patrol disappeared. Boats' empty oars left mid-stroke. No struggle, only ripples in the water. Some whispered the river carried the lost, guiding the living. Fact and folklore interwove seamlessly. Courage was the ability to move forward despite knowing the past haunted every bend. Shadows carried stories that demanded respect. Night descended rapidly. Soldiers set small campfires, sharing tales of vanished comrades, phantom regiments appearing and vanishing. Some spoke of hearing faint drum beats, never explained. The forest listened, approving or indifferent. Courage persisted, not loud, not triumphant, but steady. The men drew strength from shared legend. A soldier found a journal, pages torn and water-stained. Entries described patrols, strange lights, sudden vanishings. Half were reports, half were notes in trembling handwriting. Folklore seeped into every line. He read silently, feeling the presence of those already gone. Courage demanded recognition of both reality and myth. Footsteps echoed unexpectedly. Shadows moved at the edge of vision. Soldiers paused, scanning. Nothing visible. Yet everyone felt it. Phantom watchers, guides from another time. Legends claimed they ensured survival. Some believed it, some did not. Courage was continuing, with or without belief. A sudden gust scattered papers from an officer's kit. Maps, letters, some with markings that made no sense. Lines drawn leading nowhere. Locations marked as fate unknown. Soldiers interpreted them carefully. Ghostly guidance or misdirection. Fact and folklore blurred. Courage required interpretation and intuition. Shadows were both threat and instruction. At a crossroads, an entire platoon vanished. Only their shadows remained, long and distorted in the twilight. Some soldiers whispered prayers. Others cursed the empty air. Legends claimed the lost became protectors, guiding survivors through danger unseen. Every shadow, every mist became part of strategy. Courage was the skill of walking among ghosts. Smoke from distant skirmishes curled in the trees. Soldiers approached cautiously. Legends told of phantom fires, appearing, disappearing. Each flame could be real or spectral. Observing became ritual. Courage relied on discernment. The line between fact and folklore was no longer questioned. It was used. Each legend a tool, each story a survival tactic. By the edge of a cliff, footprints led to nowhere. Some soldiers knelt touching the earth, whispering names. They felt the presence of those lost. Unseen hands guiding warning. Courage demanded action despite uncertainty. The land itself seemed alive. History and myth intertwining with each step. A sudden scream pierced the night, distant yet close. Soldiers froze, tension wound tight. Some claimed it was a missing comrade, some a phantom. Fear sharpened resolve. Courage was defined not by safety but by persistence. Every heartbeat a measured defiance against the unknown. By the abandoned church, candles flickered unexpectedly. Shadows danced on broken walls. Legends insisted the spirits of fallen soldiers could reach across time. Soldiers approached, reverent, cautious, listening, observing. Courage included humility, recognition of forces unseen, and the persistence to continue. Night deepened. Fog thickened. Soldiers moved in synchrony, each shadow a potential threat, each sound a signal. Phantom regiments, fate unknown spectral watchers. Legends and facts merged into survival strategy. Courage became instinctual. Every movement a negotiation with the unseen. Every breath a dialogue with history. Morning broke unevenly. Light filtered through dense mist. Soldiers pressed on through fields scarred by artillery. Remnants of trenches and abandoned rifles littered the landscape. Reports indicated missing units. Fate unknown. The wind carried whispers, both real and imagined. Some claimed they heard chants, soft, distant, as if spirits were guiding them. Courage intertwined with reverence. An old church half collapsed stood among ruins. Candles burned low despite the absence of worshippers. Soldiers approached cautiously. Folklore insisted the spirits of the faithful lingered. Some reported hearing hymns in the cold air. Others swore ghostly hands had steadied their rifles. Fact and legend merged. Courage became faith in unseen protectors. In the nearby village, records from the 1920s documented strange disappearances. Witnesses described entire families vanishing overnight. Soldiers and villagers alike murmured prayers to protect themselves. Spiritual leaders claimed the ancestors walked among the living, guiding the brave and punishing the careless. Each step forward demanded awareness of both the mortal and the spectral. Dream narratives became common among the ranks. Soldiers described visions of comrades long lost, sometimes offering warning, sometimes offering comfort. Some awoke to find positions marked exactly as in their dreams. Others found themselves inexplicably safe from ambushes previously unknown. Courage became the ability to act on intuition drawn from the ethereal. Fact and folklore were inseparable instructors. The rivers carried more than water. Driftwood floated alongside remnants of letters, journals, and belongings. Some soldiers swore the currents guided them, ghostly whispers rising from the banks. Names were called in the mist. Those who answered vanished, briefly reappearing with knowledge or a warning. The unseen world shaped survival. Courage demanded recognition of both worlds. Fields once tilled by farmers lay fallow. Evidence of sudden evacuations remained. Footprints stopping abruptly. Burned tools. Fragments of cloth. Legends claimed the earth itself absorbed the stories of those lost. Soldiers paused to acknowledge these presences. Courage became humility, the understanding that history watched every step. Nightfall brought more peril. Shadows stretched unnaturally. Soldiers moved in tight formations, whispering names of the vanished. Some swore to see their ancestors' faces in fleeting light. Others felt unseen hands adjust their positions. Folklore and fact reinforced each other. Each encounter a test of bravery and attentiveness. Abandoned cabins yielded fragmented journals. Descriptions of patrols, vanishing squads, and strange phenomena. The words half factual, half dreamlike guided decisions. Soldiers internalized both. Every choice was informed by experience and legend. Courage meant trusting memory and myth equally. Spiritual rituals persisted. Even in the chaos of war, some villages maintained practices. Smoke from small fires, chants in the wind. Soldiers reported visions, figures appearing in the periphery. Sometimes helpful, sometimes terrifying. The land itself seemed animated by the faith and fear of those long gone. Courage demanded acknowledgement and movement, even when guidance was spectral. The forest became a labyrinth, every path a potential trap. Legends warned of phantom regiments appearing to mislead or aid. Soldiers encountered signs, torn banners, scattered belongings. Some were actual evidence, some imagined. Yet discernment became part of survival. Fact and folklore intertwined. Courage became intuition sharpened by legend. Reports from distant camps indicated similar phenomena. Units reported hearing drums in the night, commands shouted with no source. Sometimes orders repeated exactly as predicted. Soldiers shared these accounts around small fires, half disbelief, half hope. Ghostly intervention was as real as artillery. Courage relied on attention and respect for both worlds. The night was alive. Whispers from the dead threaded through trees. Footsteps with no origin. Distant laughter cries warnings. Soldiers moved slowly, every sound analyzed. Legends told of spirits who guided the worthy. Some soldiers believed, some merely followed out of instinct. Either way, courage demanded engagement with the unknown. Abandoned graveyards punctuated the countryside. Tombstones tilted, inscriptions eroded. Yet some carried recent footprints. Some soldiers swore the dead walked unseen, watching, judging, guiding, or warning. Courage meant acknowledgement, walking among them. Survival required both humility and audacity. In moments of rest, soldiers recounted dreams, visions of phantom comrades, ancestors, and past battles. Many awoke with insight, positions shifted, dangers avoided. Some thought it coincidence, others divine intervention. Fact and folklore were threads in the same tapestry. Courage was navigating between both. A mist-laden hill revealed traces of vanished patrols. Equipment left in orderly fashion. No bodies found. Whispers of fate unknown spread through the ranks. Some claimed seeing figures watching from the tree line. Legends suggested protection by the fallen. Courage became obedience to unseen guidance. Villagers recalled rituals, small fires, chants, offerings to ancestors. Soldiers passing through felt the presence. Fleeting glimpses of figures appearing, then vanishing. Fact records corroborated disappearances, dream narratives. Each encounter tested focus. Courage was persistence amid uncertainty. Rivers, streams, and marshes became liminal spaces. Currents carried not only debris but memories. Ghostly figures often reported near water. Some leading, some observing. Soldiers navigated carefully, learning to interpret subtle signs. Fact and folklore combined as navigation. Courage demanded attentiveness and respect. Abandoned fields bore traces of sudden flight. Scattered tools, partially eaten meals, footprints stopping mid-stride. Soldiers imagined the vanished watching. Stories of spirits guiding or warning circulated. Courage was action amid uncertainty, belief in both seen and unseen. Evening prayers echoed through hollow cabins. Spiritual leaders claimed ancestral spirits walked beside the living. Soldiers felt guidance warnings, reassurance. Folklore shaped strategy. Fact-grounded action. Courage required synthesis, movement forward, endurance. By the end of the day, soldiers paused on ridges, surveying landscapes heavy with history, forests, villages, rivers, trenches. Every shadow carried memory. Every mist, a reminder of the vanished. Fact and folklore interwove. Courage became the capacity to act, to survive, and to endure, regardless of certainty. The forest thickened as night approached, shadows stretching across the mud-laden roads. Soldiers advanced cautiously, every footstep deliberate, every breath heavy. The mist twisted around broken branches like fingers reaching for the living. Faint whispers drifted through the air. Names of the vanished, unseen presences. Courage demanded acknowledgement of every sound, every movement, each shadow a test of resolve. A torn journal lay half-buried near a collapsed trench. Mud-stained pages chronicled patrols, sudden vanishings, and eerie occurrences. Words smeared, some illegible. Soldiers leaned closer, feeling the presence of those long gone. Folklore insisted that the lost communicated from the spirit world. Each page alive with history, warning, and memory. Fact and legend entwined. Courage required belief beyond proof. Along the ridge, a burned cabin stood like a sentinel, smoke curling faintly from charred beams. Footprints led into the trees, then vanished. Soldiers felt the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. Whispers of phantom guides brushed their ears. Some claimed invisible hands steadied them. Fear and resolve intertwined in every heartbeat. Courage became instinct born of dread and discipline. A distant bugle echoed hollow and mournful. No one had sounded it. Soldiers froze, ears straining. Some swore the missing were calling, testing their resolve. Wind carried fragments of songs, spirituals from home. Ethereal guidance intertwined with memory. Each note fortified determination. Courage was the ability to follow a rhythm unseen. Each step measured deliberate and unwavering. At the ruined bridge, scattered equipment told tales of struggle. Helmets, rifles, letters. No bodies, only traces of absence. Legends whispered of soldiers vanishing mid-step, appearing elsewhere unexpectedly. Shadows flickered at the edges of vision, some human, some impossible. Uncertainty sharpened vigilance. Courage required stepping forward into the unknown, every footfall a negotiation. Night deepened. Mist rolled across hills. Soldiers moved in tight formations, every shadow a potential threat. Phantom regiments, spectral guides, echoes of vanished comrades, all seemed to act alongside them. Courage was action with awareness, responding to signals that may not exist. The invisible became tangible, every heartbeat a pact with the unknown. A candle flickered unexpectedly in a ruined barn. Soldiers approached cautiously, air thick with memory and incense. Legends insisted that spirits of fallen soldiers could reach across time, guiding or warning. Soldiers bowed in silent reverence. Courage demanded recognition and movement. Fact and folklore fused into a single guiding presence. The haunted world became both teacher and judge. Along the riverbank, currents distorted reflections, ghostly figures sometimes visible. Guiding, observing, warning. Soldiers navigated carefully, interpreting subtle signs. Fact and folklore merged as navigation. Courage demanded attentiveness and respect, willingness to act without full understanding. Every ripple and floating leaf became part of the narrative. The old church stood beyond the trees, walls blackened by fire, broken windows framed moonlight. Soldiers reported faint hymns, distant voices carrying prayers. Spirits of fallen soldiers lingered. Fact records corroborated disappearances. Folklore filled gaps. Courage required honoring both, advancing with caution, faith, and determination. A messenger arrived at camp, pallid-soaked, trembling. Northern patrol, gone. Fate unknown. Words landed like stones. Soldiers absorbed news silently. Legends of phantom guides whispered in ears. Some felt eyes upon them, unseen. Courage demanded composure. Action despite horror. In trenches, letters were found, half-burned, half intact, detailing patrols' strange phenomena, vanishings. Soldiers traced lines with trembling fingers. Legends claimed the missing continued to watch, guide, even correct. Fact and folklore coalesced. Courage was interpreting signs without certainty. A sudden gust scattered papers. Maps, letters marked fate unknown. Units appeared in wrong positions. Orders repeated. Unseen hands at play. Soldiers interpreted signs. Legend became strategy. Every shadow a guide. Courage relied on perception beyond sight. On the hillside, a patrol vanished completely. Only shadows remained. Twilight distorted reality. Some whispered prayers. Others clutched weapons tighter. Phantom regiments, spectral guides, all part of the landscape. Courage was action under pressure, trusting instinct and legend alike. A candle flickered in a ruined house. Soldiers approached, air thick with memory and incense. Legends claimed spirits of fallen soldiers could reach across time, guiding or warning. Soldiers bowed, silent reverence. Courage required recognition and continued movement. Along the river, currents distorted reflections. Ghostly figures appeared, guiding, observing. Soldiers navigated carefully, interpreting subtle signs. Fact and folklore merged. Courage demanded attentiveness, respect, and the willingness to act without certainty. Every ripple became a marker, every shadow a story. Evening prayers echoed. Chants and offerings sustained the living. Soldiers felt guidance, fleeting glimpses, reassurance. Fact and legend shaped decisions. Courage became persistence, endurance, recognition. By midnight, soldiers surveyed the land. Forests, villages, rivers, shadows carried memory. Mist whispered stories. Fact and folklore interwove seamlessly. Courage was the capacity to act, survive, endure, facing both known and unknown. The first stars appeared. Silhouettes of trees and ruined cabins. Soldiers paused, acknowledging the weight of the lost. Phantom regiments. Whispers. Fate unknown. The boundary between reality and legend was permeable. Courage required embracing uncertainty. At the abandoned chapel, wind stirred flickering candles. Shadows danced across broken walls. Soldiers approached cautiously. Legends said spirits could reach across time, guiding the living. Each soldier felt pressure, a presence watching. Courage required recognition, humility, and forward motion. Footsteps echoed unexpectedly. Shadows shifted. Soldiers froze, scanning. Nothing visible, yet everyone felt it. Phantom watchers, guides from another time, legends and fact intertwined. Courage demanded continued movement, trust, action. By the ridge, remnants of past patrols lay scattered, helmets, rifles, journals, no bodies. Some whispered prayers, some cursed. Shadows of the missing appeared in peripheral vision. Legend and history merged into strategy. Courage became navigation through the unseen. A sudden scream pierced the night, distant yet unnervingly close. Soldiers stiffened, tension wound tight. Some whispered prayers, others gripped weapons. Phantom guides and fate unknown intertwined. Courage was action under uncertainty, persistence amid terror. By the river crossing, soldiers paused. Currents distorted images, fleeting forms appeared. Some followed, some hesitated. Fact and folklore guided decisions, every movement measured. Courage demanded trust. Trust in instincts, in legend, and in those unseen. Night deepened further. Fog rolled in. Soldiers moved in synchrony. Shadows became participants. Phantom regiments, fate unknown. All became strategy. Courage was instinct. Every motion deliberate. Every breath acknowledgement of the unseen. Every heartbeat a pact with history. The sun rose over a scarred landscape. Fields still pocked with trenches. Abandoned villages stretching like skeletons of memory. Soldiers who survived paused, surveying the land. Some names would never appear in reports. Fate unknown. Yet the echoes of their courage lingered, whispered in wind and rustling leaves, and in the hearts of those who remembered. Cabins remained hollow, doors hanging loose, windows broken, shadows lengthening into the early light. Every creaking hinge carried stories of vanished lives. The men who passed through knew the ghosts were still watching, guiding, sometimes punishing. Each presence a reminder of survival's cost. Courage was not only action, but acknowledgement of those who came before. Letters never delivered, journals lost in mud, photographs charred or washed away. Families waited, sometimes years, for answers that would never come. Fate unknown extended beyond the battlefield, leaving an imprint in memory. Soldiers carried these silences with them, their courage measured by endurance, by living, despite absence of resolution. Villagers spoke in hushed tones, stories of soldiers walking unseen, phantom regiments appearing at dusk, whispered prayers for protection, legends intertwined with fact, guiding or cautioning. Each narrative became a thread in the tapestry of history. Courage was the willingness to move forward amid uncertainty and to honor those who could not return. Spirituals still floated across the land. Songs carried through generations, melodies echoing the presence of those who marched and vanished. Ghostly rhythms persisted in memory. Some believed the spirits joined in the songs, offering guidance and warning. Courage endured not only in body but in song, in memory and repetition. Rivers and streams still whispered, currents carrying driftwood and remnants of belongings. Some swore they heard faint voices, songs or warnings. Soldiers long gone remained present in the collective consciousness. Fact and folklore merged into a single history. Courage required listening, respecting, and remembering. Fields once tilled by families left abandoned. Crops failed, homes deteriorated. But stories flourished. Ghost stories, warnings, tales of bravery. Children learned of vanished soldiers of fate unknown. Courage became inherited. A spiritual inheritance passed from one generation to the next. The land itself became a teacher, reminding all who walked upon it. Monuments were sparse, gravestones sometimes missing, eroded by rain, yet memory refused to fade. Scholars piecing together reports discovered fragments, letters, logs, oral histories. Fact met folklore, providing glimpses of truth. Courage endured in the act of remembrance, preserving stories against time's erasure. The forests still whispered, leaves rustling with faint echoes of footsteps. Soldiers of old remained in shadow, guiding, judging. Some who walked the paths decades later swore they felt hands on their shoulders, a ghostly reassurance. Courage demanded acknowledgement of the invisible, trust in the persistence of those who came before. Abandoned churches echoed faint chants, some residual smoke lingering. Folklore insisted spirits lingered to guide the living. Soldiers bowed in respect. Even decades later, these spaces held weight. Fact and legend merged. The lessons of bravery and endurance were encoded into the land itself. Courage was continuing, even long after battles ended. Letters discovered years later spoke of vanished comrades, names scribbled partially erased, fate unknown recorded in archives. The missing became both myth and evidence. Their presence remained in whispers and footfalls imagined in songs sung at dusk. Courage existed in acknowledging those absences and carrying their memory forward. Old journals recounted dreams, visions of phantom soldiers guiding, warning, comforting. Soldiers of later generations internalized the lessons. Every dream a connection, fact and folklore intertwined, shaping understanding. Courage was interpreting guidance tangible or ethereal, and acting despite uncertainty. The land itself bore memory. Rivers, forests, trenches. Each element a witness. Shadows lengthened as evening fell, and even in stillness the whispers persisted. Phantom regiments, fate unknown, echoes of the fallen, all remained, instructing, cautioning, reminding. Courage required listening, moving, and honoring these presences. Villages long abandoned carried residue of fear and hope. Broken homes, empty streets. Yet stories of courage persisted. Children recounted legends, songs carried on the wind. The echoes of those who marched in shadows reached far beyond their mortal lives. Courage became a legacy, preserved in story and song. The forests held stillness, but whispered constantly. Every twig, every rustle a memory. Soldiers who survived carried it in their hearts, passing it down. Legends claimed spirits guided the living still, protecting, warning. Courage became continuity, persistence, a moral inheritance linking past to present. Rivers mirrored the stars, currents twisted around driftwood and debris. Soldiers navigating the waters felt unseen hands, guiding, warning, reminding. Fact and folklore merged seamlessly. Courage was listening, moving forward, acknowledging the unseen, the unknown. Abandoned fields and trenches became hallowed ground, moss and weeds masking scars. Soldiers walking decades later sensed history's weight. Whispers in the wind shadows at dusk. Phantom figures lingered in memory. Courage was measured by presence, endurance, acknowledgement of the battles unseen and names unrecorded. Letters, journals, and fragmented logs pieced together the narrative. Fragments of lives, glimpses of fate, unknown. Scholars and villagers alike carried these stories, ensuring that courage and sacrifice would not fade. Fact and folklore merged into a collective memory. Each story a lesson in persistence, bravery, and witness. The wind shifted, carrying faint echoes. Songs, cries, footsteps. Soldiers long gone remained present, guiding, observing. The landscape itself seemed alive with history. Every shadow, every ripple, every leaf became a testament. Courage persisted in memory, in acknowledgement, in action, even decades later. Night fell over the scarred land. Stars reflected in rivers and ponds. Shadows of trees stretched long and thin. Stories of phantom regiments, fate unknown, and vanished soldiers echoed. Songs hummed softly. Courage endured. Each whisper a reminder. Every step forward an homage. Memory becoming sacred. By the riverbank, currents reflected moonlight. Ghostly figures appeared briefly, guiding, warning, observing. Soldiers and later travelers sensed them. Legends persisted. Courage became connection to the past, to those unseen. Fact and folklore intertwined, shaping the moral landscape. Every action, every thought touched by the shadow of the gone. The final echoes lingered. Villages, empty cabins decayed, yet memory remained. Spirituals still rose at dusk. Ghost stories persisted around fires. Fact and folklore became inseparable. Courage endured, not as a momentary act, but as a living presence. Whispered, sung, remembered, shaping every generation. And so the story closes, yet remains open. Names unrecorded, footsteps vanished. Phantom regiments marching eternally. Fate, unknown courage eternal. Listeners are left in the echoes, the shadowed paths, the songs. And as the wind carries stories forward, the legacy of those who walked in the shadows continues. Courage is alive, always waiting.